For many South Sudanese citizens, any signs of hope for peace in the world's youngest nation were again dashed after talks between President Salva Kiir and his longtime rival Riek Machar collapsed in Addis Ababa without a deal. Political discord between the two leaders has brought ethnic violence, and now there appears to be no resolution to the standoff in sight. A leaked African Union document says a transitional government is needed in South Sudan, and that neither Kiir or Machar should serve in it, reportedly because of their alleged responsibility for the, quote, organized massacres and large-scale violence, end quote. South Sudanese rebel leader and former Vice President Riek Machar says the government is not willing to change its position.
We have done our best to arrive to a peace agreement, but it has not become possible because the positions being presented by the government.
President Salva Kiir had little comment.
I have no comment.
Michael McQuay, a spokesperson for the government of South Sudan, denies that the talks were a major setback.
I don't agree with the conclusion that the talks have failed, but we say we are suspending the talks for further consultations.
Sayoum Mesfin is chief mediator for the Intergovernmental Authority on Development.
The level of damage of confidence, the level of mistrust that you see between these leaders is unbelievable. And they have not been able to overcome this, to forgive with each other and execute their people by cutting a deal and an agreement to transform the country into a peaceful one ruled by constitutional rules.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon expressed profound disappointment at the talks' conclusion, and the U.S. State Department strongly condemned the lack of political leadership to resolve this man-made conflict. Earlier, the UN Security Council adopted a resolution to impose limited sanctions on South Sudan. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power.
Those who frustrate peace must begin to pay the price.
More peace talks are expected, but no date has been scheduled. Meanwhile, the death toll is mounting. Over 10,000 people have been killed. The UN believes there were 12,000 child soldiers involved in the conflict there last year. Upwards of 2 million people have been displaced, and an estimated 2.5 million South Sudanese are facing severe food shortages. Paul Sisco, VOA News.
Thanks, Paul, for that report. And before we begin our discussion, I am now joined by the former Vice President of South Sudan, Dr. Riek Machar, currently the chairman of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement in opposition. He joins us by telephone link-up from Addis Ababa. Good evening, Dr. Machar.
Good evening, Shaka.
Well, you've been fighting for over a year now, Dr. Machar, and there are a lot of people, frankly, who were hoping that you would meet the deadline of the talks, which was last week on Thursday, March 5th. Why didn't you sign on the deal?
Well, there was no agreement to be signed. There was no deal. I'm disappointed like the rest of the South Sudanese people and also the rest of the world. So there was no deal on the table.